Hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you very much for joining us for this webinar organized by the IOM Migration Information Center in Slovakia and Slovak Pro. My name is Natalia and I will walk you through this webinar with my colleague Martin. Let me just give you instruction about this webinar. We have dedicated about 90 minutes for it, including your questions. Your cameras can be on or off, and this webinar is divided into sections, into certain blocks, and I'd like to go through the first block, and then you can ask your questions. Then my colleague Martin will take over, and once he's finished, you can ask your questions as well. So I think it's about the time. So yeah, let's start. And hello again. Firstly, I would like to briefly introduce you to the IOM Migration Information Center, which provides free of charge counseling and services for foreigners since 2006. The core activity is legal counseling. Therefore, we provide legal advice on issues such as visa, residences, employment, family reunion, or citizenships. We also provide employment counseling. Therefore, we can help you with the job market orientation. We can help you draft your CV and cover letter. And also we can prep you for your job interview. Our services include educational support, and we provide open courses of Slovak language and socio-cultural orientation. Also financial contributions for training and retraining courses, and financial contributions when it comes to recognition of foreign qualifications. Like I said, my name is Natalia and I'm a lawyer at the Migration Information Center. And as this webinar is dedicated to Slovaks living in the USA or US citizens with a connection to Slovakia, we have tried to tailor this webinar to your needs, but this topic is extremely vast. So we have kind of picked the most relevant information and we try to squeeze in as much as possible. Hopefully I will not bore you. And like I said, I will walk you through the following sections that you can see on your screen. So let's talk about visa.
Excuse me, just a minute.
When it comes to visa, Slovak citizens don't need it because they can enter Slovakia and stay in Slovakia as long as they want. However, the situation is different for US citizens. US citizens with valid passports can enjoy visa-free travel to the Schengen area. However, they need to stress that the 90/180 rule apply. What does it mean? US citizens can spend a maximum of 90 days within a total period of 180 days in the Schengen area. When you enter the Schengen area as a US citizen, your passport must be valid for at least 6 months at the time of the entry. And what I'd like to stress as well, that the Schengen area consists of 29 countries. Therefore, it's Slovakia and 29 countries. If you travel from the US, for example, to Spain, and you spend a few days in Spain, then you move from Spain to Germany and you spend a few days in Germany and then finally reach Slovakia, you need to factor in all these days that you've spent in the Schengen area. Once you reach Slovakia, you have a duty as a US citizen to report your stay to the foreign police in Slovakia within 3 working days of the entry. It's very simple. You can download the form from the foreign police website or from our IOM website, and then you can send it to the foreign police via post and keep a receipt from the post office for your own records. If you are unsure how many days you have already spent in the Schengen, how many days you have left on your allowance, or when you'll be able to re-enter Schengen again, you can use a tool which is called the Schengen calculator. It's been developed by the European Commission, and I can share the link to the calculator later on. So it's really useful. If you are thinking about staying in Slovakia for a longer period of time, you need to obtain residence. We've got two kinds of residence in Slovakia. It's temporary residence and permanent residence. When it comes to temporary residence, as its name suggests, it's like a shorter type of residence. And I just want to touch upon in case someone is interested in this type of residence. However, who can apply for it? It's more or less foreigners who are not Slovak citizens or their family members, or foreigners who are not EU citizens or their family members. So, for example, if you are a Slovak citizen living in the UK and you are thinking about relocating back to Slovakia, but your partner is from Mexico or Canada and you are not married, you have no children, then then the person must apply for a temporary residence. It can be done at the diplomatic mission of Slovakia accredited to the country of citizenship or residence of the applicant, or to the foreign police if an applicant meets one of the criteria. So, for example, they enjoy like a visa-free regime, or they've been issued with a national visa by the Slovak embassy, or they've got residence permit from a different European country, etc., etc. So you can see on the screen, and I do not want to bore you with details. I have to point out that temporary residence is always tied to a certain purpose. It could be employment or business or studies or family reunion. And this specific purpose must be kept during the validity of the temporary residence. However, temporary residence can be renewed. Documents needed for obtaining this are the following: application form, valid passport, one color photo, criminal record statement, documents confirming purpose of residence. So this could be like a confirmation from university, birth certificate or marriage certificate in case of family reunions, etc., etc. Other documents needed are documents proving sufficient financial means or documents on accommodation. When it comes to criminal record statement, this is like same for temporary or permanent residence. Criminal record statement must be obtained and provided from the country of the applicant's citizenship, and also from the countries where the applicant resided for more than 90 days during 6 consecutive months in the last 3 years. There is a specific type of temporary residence I'd like to talk about as well. It's temporary residence for a Slovak living abroad. Who is a Slovak living abroad? Basically, it's a person who has a certificate of a Slovak living abroad, and this certificate is issued by the Office for Slovaks Living Abroad. A person basically retains a national consciousness, and their ancestor in direct line has or had Slovak nationality. If you have a certificate of Slovak living abroad, you can apply for temporary residence in Slovakia based on this status, while providing valid passport, one color photo, certificate of a Slovak living abroad, and criminal record statement. However, this document is not always required, and it's not required when the applicant submits their residence application within 60 days of being issued the certificate of a Slovak living abroad. So this is quite simple, and it can be useful for some of participants in this webinar who's got this certificate. Once you've been given the temporary residence based on this status, you can be employed without further permits, you can do business, you can study in Slovakia. Maximum validity is 5 years, and your family members can apply and can obtain temporary residence for the purpose of family reunion. So I've just glanced over when it comes to temporary residence, and I'd like to shift your attention to permanent residence. This information could be really valuable for this audience because we've got 3 types of permanent residence in Slovakia. However, we are going to concentrate on permanent residence for 5 years due to the nature of this webinar and the targeted audience. Permanent residence for 5 years can be mainly granted to spouses and parents of Slovak citizens with permanent residence in Slovakia. Obviously, there are other eligible categories. However, I will not go into the detail. If you are interested in other categories, we can discuss that later on. If you are a spouse or a parent of Slovak citizen and you would like to obtain permanent residence in Slovakia, you can submit your application again at the diplomatic mission of Slovakia abroad, for example, at the Embassy of Slovakia in Washington, or at the Foreign Police Department directly in Slovakia. Again, if you are a US citizen, you enjoy a visa-free travel to Slovakia. Therefore, you can travel to Slovakia and submit your residence application directly there. You will need the following documents: application form, valid passport, 1-color photograph, registry document, criminal record statement, document proving sufficient financial means. It can be proved yourself or by your, for example, husband or wife. And also you will need a document on accommodation in Slovakia and Slovak citizens' ID or confirmation that you are residing and you are going to reside at the same address. However, I'd like to point out that if you are a parent of a Slovak citizen, so if you are a parent of a Slovak child, you need to prove your dependency on your child and not the other way around. Basically, that dependency is not set in stone. The law doesn't really prescribe how to prove it. Therefore, you can be creative. You can provide affidavits, statements, photos, financial documents. However, you have to convince the authorities that that dependency of you on your child exists. It can be emotional or financial dependency, but like I said, the relevant law doesn't state how to prove it. It's basically up to you as an applicant to prove it. When it comes to the registry documents or personal status documents, it's the same. If you want to apply for permanent residence for 5 years based on your marriage to a Slovak citizen, you will need to provide Slovak marriage certificate. If your marriage took place in Slovakia, it's not a problem. You don't even need to do anything else. The Slovak Foreign Police can find details in the internal databases. You don't even need to bring the marriage certificate along at the appointment. However, situation is different if the marriage took place abroad in the USA or even somewhere else. Then it's needed to enter it into the special register, and this entry is requested by a Slovak citizen. So if you are both Slovak citizens who married abroad, it can be either of you. If there is a Slovak citizen and a foreigner, a Slovak citizen will request the entry. It can be done at the diplomatic mission of Slovakia abroad or at the registry office in the area where a Slovak citizen has their permanent residence. The documents needed are application form, marriage certificate, which must have an apostille or it must be legalized and then translated to Slovakia. Then the Slovak citizen must provide documents proving Slovak citizenship, and also the divorce decree or death certificate. If Slovak citizen is widowed, needs to be provided. But that divorce decree or death certificate are only required from a Slovak citizen, not from the other spouse. The registry should decide about this request within 3 months. However, I like to summarize information about the required document, because all public documents issued abroad must be legalized if used in Slovakia. If they were issued by the US authority, the apostille is required. And then these documents must be officially translated into Slovak. It must be done by a translator who is on the Ministry of Justice website. So it can't be any translator. It must be like an official translator from the list of the Ministry of Justice website. There is one exemption when the apostille is not required, and that's when it comes to the criminal record statement issued by the FBI. The translation is more than enough when it comes to these documents. When it comes to relevant documents, these cannot be older than 90 days at the time of submission of the application. Exemption is applicable when it comes to registry documents like marriage certificate or birth certificate. And the foreign police should decide on this application within 90 days. However, the crisis situation in relation to the war in Ukraine is still ongoing in Slovakia. Therefore, the foreign police can take even longer when it comes to making decision. However, if you are a US citizen and you submitted your residence application in Slovakia, you don't need to worry about your Schengen allowance, as you can stay in Slovakia until the decision on your application is made. When it comes to apostille, there are certain competent authorities to issue the apostille in the USA. I can share the link as well, so you can see. It depends on the document who is the relevant or competent authority for the apostille certificate. Usually, it's Secretary of State's office. Some useful information about permanent residence for 5 years. And where residence application can be submitted abroad or at the foreign police in Slovakia. If you decide to submit the residence application abroad and the residence has been granted, you need to arrive in Slovakia within 180 days after the residence has been granted. Then you've got the reporting duty to the foreign police that has been mentioned. Also, you, as a permanent resident, you need to sign up for health insurance within 3 working days of receiving the residence card. This is quite important. It's not 3 working days of being granted the residence, but receiving the residence card. However, when it comes to health insurance, permanent residents are entitled to public health insurance like citizens of Slovakia. There is another duty to submit a medical report not older than 30 days, confirming that you do not suffer from a disease endangering public health to the foreign police. Again, the deadline is 30 days of receiving the residence card. Once the permanent residence has been granted and you are a permanent resident, you can be employed in Slovakia, you can do business, you can study without any further permits or constraints. Basically, when it comes to the area, you have a status of Slovak citizen, so you don't need to worry about that side of the things. Permanent resident can be also registered at job seekers register in Slovakia. And there is a very important duty if you intend to spend 180 days or even more outside Slovakia and you've been granted permanent residence for 5 years, you must notify the foreign police about it in writing. We have a template, we can provide it if needed. After 4 years, since the permanent residence for 5 years have been granted, you can apply for permanent residence for an unlimited time. Let's focus on permanent residence for 5 years due to special consideration reasons. What is it? Basically, it's like a special type of permanent residence for 5 years, and applicants could be descendants of Czechoslovak citizens who were born in Slovakia. So if you have a parent, grandparent, or great-grandparent who was a Czechoslovak citizen born in Slovakia, you can apply for this permanent residence for 5 years due to special consideration reasons. Again, you can apply at a diplomatic mission of Slovakia abroad or at the Foreign Police Department in Slovakia if one of the criteria laid down are met. Documents you will need in order to obtain this residence are standard: application form, valid passport, one-color photo. However, you will need to provide registry documents in form of birth certificate to demonstrate your lineage. Basically, you will have to prove that your ancestor was born in Slovakia, and I have to stress it must be like Slovakia in today's geographical sense. And these birth certificates are proof of a bloodline to your ancestor. So your parents, grandparents, great-grandparents. Sometimes it can be difficult to obtain them, but it's possible via archives in Slovakia. It depends where your ancestor was born. However, based on our experience, the relevant authorities required further documents. They say that birth certificate itself doesn't prove that the person was a Czechoslovak citizen. And they require further documents in the form of Czechoslovak passport or ID, citizenship certificate, military booklet, or census records. These are sometimes quite difficult to obtain. However, you can also liaise with the archives if you can't find anything at home, and you can obtain it via archives as well. It's very important to establish when your ancestor emigrated from Slovakia to the US. Generally, people who left Slovakia before 1920 were never Czechoslovak citizens. I will not go into detail. We can discuss that later on or via email, but this is very, very, very important because we have come across cases when people were born in 1880, emigrated to the US in, let's say, 1912, and unfortunately, their descendants do not qualify for this type of residence because their ancestors were never considered Czechoslovak citizens born in Slovakia. So we've been through the permanent residence, and now we are going to talk about citizenship. It's a really big topic, and like I've said, I've tried to squeeze in as much information as possible, so hopefully you'll find it useful. Slovak citizenship can be acquired by birth, adoption, or naturalization. When it comes to birth, a child acquires Slovak citizenship automatically if at least one of their parents is a Slovak citizen. It doesn't matter where the child was born. You know, if one of the parents of the child is a Slovak citizen, child is a Slovak citizen as well. However, their status must be formalized and certain documents must be requested. Just a note, a child of a foreign citizen and a citizen of Slovakia is a Slovak citizen, even if it is later proved that the citizen of Slovakia is not the child's parent. This might be useful as well. Like I've said, Slovak citizenship can be also acquired by adoption. You can see the condition on the screen. When a child is born to Slovak citizen or citizen abroad, the child's birth should be registered at the special register via diplomatic mission of Slovakia abroad, registry office in the area where the Slovak citizen parent has permanent residence or have their last permanent residence, or at any registry office if the Slovak citizen parent did not have permanent residence in Slovakia. Documents that are required are application form, child's birth certificate. If a child was born in the US, the certificate must be apostilled and officially translated to Slovak. Then parents' proof of Slovak citizenship. It could be either citizenship certificate, a passport, or an ID, and also like marriage certificate, or if parents are divorced, then divorce decree or death certificate in under certain circumstances. If child's mother is single, it is necessary to submit an affidavit on personal status as well. There is also like useful information about applying for a Slovak passport in the USA. Obviously, we've discussed what happens if the child was born abroad, for example, in the USA, and you've already fulfilled the steps described previously, then you can apply for the child's passport, or any citizens of Slovakia can apply for a passport in the USA. I have to stress that the prior appointment at the embassy or consulate general is a must. So this is the very first step to take. When it comes to documents, then a valid identification document demonstrating Slovak citizenship is required. Again, it can be either passport or ID or citizenship certificate, not older than 6 months. If name, or better to say surname change, occurred due to the marriage and the new passport is requested due to the situation, then marriage certificate is also required. If the change occurs for a different reason, then relevant documents supporting the change must be submitted as well. As you are aware, then biometric data is taken during the appointment at the embassy or consulate general. Just like information, children under 12 are not obliged to submit their fingerprints, and the signature is not required from a person in case they are unable to sign documents. This is pretty standard. I've talked about Slovak citizenship certificate quite a lot, but what is it? In simple terms, it's proof of Slovak citizenship. It's a public document proving that person is a Slovak citizen, and it's necessary to obtain when it comes to issuing passport or making entries to the register in case the person in question does not have a valid Slovak passport or ID. In order to obtain this citizenship certificate, application form, identification document, birth certificate, or document proving personal status are required. Obviously, the relevant authority can request further documents if needed. When it comes to citizenship, we've already learned that it can be acquired by birth or adoption, but it can be also acquired by naturalization. Like basic conditions are laid down on the screen, which is continuous permanent residence in Slovakia for at least 8 years prior to the citizenship application submission, proving integrity within the scope defined by the Nationality Act. Another point is knowledge of the Slovak language and general knowledge of Slovakia, then other special conditions, and also an applicant who wants to obtain Slovak citizenship via naturalization must submit all necessary documents pursuant to the Nationality Act. However, there are exemptions. For example, for an applicant who is not a citizen of Slovakia and at least of one of their parents, grandparents, or great-grandparents was a Czechoslovak citizen born within the territory of Slovakia, or is married to a Slovak citizen, the marriage still exists, and they've been living in a common household in Slovakia for at least 5 years, immediately preceding the citizenship application. Or if somebody has a certificate of Slovak living abroad and he's been granted temporary residence in Slovakia based on that, then continuous residence in the territory of Slovakia for at least 3 years immediately preceding the citizen application is acceptable. Descendants can apply for citizenship if they have granted or registered residence in Slovakia, and there is no specific length prescribed. That's why we were discussing permanent residence for 5 years due to special consideration reasons. Because if you are a US citizen and you want to obtain citizenship based on your ancestors, you need to obtain residence first, and it can be the permanent residence for 5 years, and then you can apply for citizenship. You don't need to wait a week or two or a year or two. Once you've got permanent residence granted, you can apply for Slovak citizenship. Like I've said, this presentation, this webinar is tailored to you, to your audience. Therefore, there are more exemptions, but I've just picked up these 3 because I think these are the most relevant considering the situation. When it comes to documents for citizenship application, some of these documents are pretty standard, like application form, valid passport or ID or CV, registry documents, proof of residence, then criminal record statement. I have to point out that you will never need to provide a criminal record statement from Slovakia when it comes to residence or citizenship, because the Foreign Police and Ministry of Interior can deal with it internally. So this is not a required document. You will also have to submit applicant's questionnaire and other documents. It depends on your situation. Could be employment contract, health insurance document, pension documents, etc., etc. It depends on every person's status. These are basically just like basic documents that are required to be submitted alongside the citizenship application. Where you can submit it, again, diplomatic mission of Slovakia abroad or district office in the seat of the region according to the place of permanent or last permanent residence in Slovakia. These district offices in the seat of the region are in every major city in Slovakia. There are 8 major cities based on the regions, and you can see them in front of you. Interesting, or maybe like a putting off requirement could be knowledge of the Slovak language. Plenty of people who could be eligible for Slovak citizenship do not speak Slovak, and this puts them off. knowledge of the Slovak language and general knowledge of Slovakia is basically verified directly when applying for citizenship by completing the applicant's questionnaire. Usually, 3-member commission is established for the exam, and these exams are unique. There is nothing set in stone how the exam looks like, because applicants' health, age, education, and other personal criteria are considered. When it comes to the exam, there are questions about an applicant asked about Slovakia, its history, geography, literature. Then an applicant must read an article from newspapers, which is around 500 words long, and do a bit of writing. However, there are exemptions for certain applicants. For example, for an applicant who is under 14 but above 65, or who has a valid certificate of a Slovak living abroad, or who has successfully passed the secondary school leaving examination or state language examination or state examination in Slovak at a higher education institution in a program conducted in Slovak within last 10 years. Another exemption applies to an applicant who is not a citizen of Slovakia and at least one of his parents, grandparents, or great-grandparents was a Czechoslovak citizen born in the territory of Slovakia. I think this is our favorite type of, of an applicant. Exam is also not required of applicant who lost the citizenship of Slovakia by acquiring foreign citizenship between 17th of July 2010 and 31st of March 2022. As previously said, there are more exemptions. However, I thought that these are the most relevant ones, so I've laid them down for you. As you may be aware, as of 1st of April, dual citizenship is allowed. Generally, a Slovak citizen loses Slovak citizenship if they acquire foreign citizenship. However, like I said, as of 1st of April 2022, a Slovak citizen will not lose their Slovak citizenship if a Slovak citizen acquired citizenship of the spouse during their marriage, or foreign citizenship was acquired by birth, adoption, or acquired by a minor child, or if Slovak citizen acquired foreign citizenship, for example, UK citizenship, US citizenship, if he or she had granted or registered residence for at least 5 years at the time of its acquisition and had officially resided in that country, or if Slovak citizen acquired foreign citizenship before 17th of July 2010. Sorry. Basically, Slovak citizenship was not always lost, even before the change, which is effective as of 1st of April 2022. For example, if Slovak citizen acquired citizenship of the spouse during their marriage, or if foreign citizenship was acquired by birth. So these are like exemptions. When it comes to like regaining of Slovak citizenships, documents that need to be provided are more or less identical to like a standard documents when it comes to citizenship application, and must be submitted as previously advised, diplomatic mission of Slovakia abroad or district office in the seat of the region. This is more or less the same. So I have been through the majority of the presentation that I'm dealing with. So I would like to give you room for your questions you might be interested in. So yeah, if you have any questions, this is the place and time to ask.
I have a question. Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Any questions?
Hello.
There's a question from Katrina. Natalia, can you hear her?
Hello? I'm trying to say something. Hello?
I can hear her. It might be that not everybody can hear.
Well, my question is in the chat too. It's the same question I put in the chat.
Hello?
My question is in the chat.
Okay, sorry. I wasn't really concentrating on the chat while I was presenting. So
Okay, I can say it. I just didn't think you could hear me.
yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. I was granted a 5-year temporary residence card based on my SLA approval back in December. I do intend to live in Slovakia, and I've also applied for CBD, but I'm still waiting on that. But in the meantime, I was in Slovakia. I literally just returned a couple days ago, but it was for vacation, not for purposes of finding a home at this point. I hope to do that next year. But on one of your slides, I'm hoping I didn't misunderstand the information. What I was reading it to say that within 180 days of being granted that temporary residency on SLA, that I needed to put in writing to the police that I would not be residing in Slovakia right away?
Yeah, basically, if you intend to be absent of Slovakia for 180 days, consecutive days, it has to be stressed, and more, you should inform the foreign police. It's very easy. You just need to send in like a letter. We can also provide a template, and we recommended sending it via post. Usually, I recommend track and trace service and keep a receipt for your own records. Then your residence is like protected.
Okay, so I already missed that window because it's long past 180 days since my approval.
Katrina, it's different for SLA holders.
Okay, well, that screen specifically was talking about temporary residence via SLA.
Yeah, you need to inform the foreign police about the absence if it's more than 180 days.
Okay.
If you missed it, you can also send a letter from abroad. It doesn't need to be sent from Slovakia. It can be sent from abroad as well. And it's better to do it later than never.
Okay. Susie, can I talk to you later?
You can just message me.
Okay. Is there somewhere where I can see that direction in writing?
Yeah, if you send us an email after the seminar, we can deal with it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem. You're welcome. Any other questions?
Yes, hi, this is Katarina. I wrote a question in the chat about I'm asking about the retirement options for US citizens who would potentially be interested becoming a Slovak citizen later. So my husband is American and he was wondering about the retirement. He also submitted a question earlier.
Yeah, so you are both American citizens and you would like to move to Slovakia for retirement. Is that correct?
I have dual citizenship. I have both Slovak. I was born in Slovakia and lived there for a while. I have both passports, Slovak and US, and my husband only has a US passport. Nobody was able to tell him if there is anything such as 401k, IRA, or anything like that in Slovakia. So can you maybe answer that?
Yeah, this is a very specific question. We don't really deal with it, but I'm happy to look into that later on because, like I've said, we've got 90 minutes for this webinar, and obviously these residency, citizenship, and stuff like that. These are like broad topics, so we can discuss it later on. And like I said, you probably have our email already, and if not, we will share these details in the end of the webinar, so you'll be able to, reach to us via email or via telephone. And like I said, I'm happy to look into that.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No
Have a good day.
problem. Thank you. Any other questions?
Hi, my name is Jennifer. I have a quick question about citizenship or dual citizenship via descent from great-grandparents. I have 4 great-grandparents who were born in Slovakia. I have a copy of a passport, of a Czechoslovak passport from one of my grandparents, great-grandparents. I don't know if that's sufficient or if I have
It
to.
is.
Okay, thank you. And then the other question I had was about a residency. So to apply for dual citizenship, do I need to apply for permanent residency first? I understand?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, you need to have some kind of residence in Slovakia, and a permanent residence for 5 years due to special consideration reasons is like the best one considering your situation.
Okay.
You can do in the US.
Okay, so I can apply from the US and then
Yeah.
go to Slovakia after the application's been processed, or?
You don't even need to go to Slovakia, if I'm honest with you. You can apply at the US embassy, obviously, if you fulfill the criteria, if you provide the required documents, and then once the residence is granted, then you can apply for citizenship. However, like I've said, it's super important to establish when your ancestors left Slovakia, if they were Czechoslovak citizens, or at least one of them. One of them is more than enough. And if they were born in Slovakia, as it stands, because we come across like potential applicants whose grandparents were born in Mukachevo, which is Ukraine now, and not Slovakia, and these are not eligible. But if you have like a Czechoslovak passport of your ancestor, that's great. Then you will also show your lineage. Like I said, you need to obtain birth certificates to show that, the line to your ancestors.
Okay, yeah, he was born in Vyšný Slovenky, and I think I would have to get a birth certificate and just go through the archives to obtain that, as well as the passport, because the passport has the documentation of his birth, it says where he's born and everything.
Yeah. And when it comes to archives, I'm more than happy to help. I have like relevant experience with that, and it's not that difficult as it sounds. So like I said, email us afterwards and we'll sort it out. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for this webinar. It's so helpful. Much appreciated.
Oh, thank you for your kind words. Have a nice day.
You too.
Anyone else?
Yes.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. How can I help?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. My question has to do with documentation for my grandparents and great-grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
I have some of them, but they are not in Slovak. They are in Hungarian. So how do I move forward? They were born in the eastern part of Slovakia near Košice, present-day Košice, and Obišovce. But the documents, my relatives who live there now, my cousins, they obtained them for me, but they are in Hungarian language.
Yeah. And may I just ask, when they emigrated to the US, do you know the year?
Yes, I think it's going to be real close to what you said earlier in the 1800s. What did you say, 1812?
Yeah, basically, when it's not like very rigid, but based on our experience, the year is 1920. If they emigrated to the US before 1920, I'm not sure if they were considered Czechoslovak citizens. It's quite difficult because, it was the Austro-Hungarian Empire and changes and transition to Czechoslovakia. So that's basically the year that we have to consider, 1920.
Yes, so I will probably fall, my circumstances of my ancestors will fall into that time period and their escape through Hungary and other parts. But I still have many relatives in Slovakia. I lived in Slovakia for 6 years too.
Nice.
So yes, I miss it every day. The question is, if there's problems with those documents because of the dates, do I have to go to the Hungarian embassy? What do I do? Make an appointment to talk to you and show them to you.
Yeah, I'm aware of that issue. If I'm honest with you, I've not come across like a Hungarian documents when it comes to obtaining residency and citizenship. So that's the thing. What we have to do, the first step is to find out if they were ever considered Czechoslovak citizens. Once this has been confirmed, we can take it from there. But like if you said that all the documents are in Hungarian, I don't know if I'm honest with you.
Okay.
But like I said, we are more than happy to help. I have experience with the archives in Slovakia. I can get that information really quick, so it's not a problem. You're welcome.
My cousins are very eager to help me too, from Slovakia if need be, but I know that I must do it. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for your question. Any more questions?
Hi.
Yes.
Hi.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
go ahead.
Hi, yes. I'm Jen, and my partner has his Slovak living abroad. We have an apartment there in Bratislava, and we are actually planning to go in October. I am a U.S. citizen, and I have zero anything. So just curious if it makes more sense for me to try for a temporary residence permit while I'm still here in the US, or if it makes more sense to do the process when I'm already over there.
Obviously, this is a difficult question to answer. Yeah, basically, like this is something that you do not need to follow. I would do it in Slovakia.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's kind of what we were thinking. It might be just easier to do it that way, but I was just I wanted to kind of confirm that.
Like I've said on so many occasions, you can drop us an email and give us a bit more information, because more or less every situation is unique. But I would suggest probably submit your application in Slovakia. You can pick any department of the foreign police in Slovakia. We'll provide you a link where you can book an appointment, and then once you submitted your application, you can wait for the outcome in Slovakia, because like I said at the beginning, as a US citizen, you've got the 90 days allowance. But if you submit the application at the foreign police in Slovakia, you can stay in Slovakia until the foreign police make their decision on it. But, I do repeat that, but I really mean it. We can help you.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's very reassuring. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then I do have just a couple other questions, if that's okay. So my understanding for those that have their SLA, it's a 3-year waiting period before they're eligible for citizenship. Is that correct? Or did I misread that?
I'm not sure if I understand your question, because if somebody has a certificate of a Slovak living abroad, they can apply for temporary residence, and with the temporary residence, once the 3-year threshold is hit, they can apply for Slovak citizenship. So it's like a shorter period of waiting when it comes to citizenship. However, if somebody like a Slovak who has, US citizen with Slovak ancestors, they can also apply for permanent residence for 5 years, and then they can apply. Permanent residence is good because it's permanent. It's a better status than temporary residence. And then with the permanent residence, you don't need to wait even a day. Once it's been granted, then you can apply for citizenship right away. So I can, yeah, like I said, and I don't like repeating myself, but every situation is kind of unique. And once we kind of discuss your or your partner's situation further, we can probably recommend the best course of action. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I really
You're
appreciate
welcome.
the help and information.
You're welcome. Thank you. Yeah, any more questions, please?
Yes,
Hi.
a question, two-part question. And you referenced the 1920 date for immigration in the context of citizenship by descent applications. Just for the benefit of people on this call, are you aware of cases where people have applied for citizenship by descent, even though the relevant ancestor?
I'm so sorry, but you're cutting off.
Sorry, are you aware of cases where, let's say the grandparent left in 1912, okay, so that's before 1920, before the establishment of the Czechoslovak state, but they were still able to claim that they later became a Czechoslovak citizen because of this so-called 10-year rule. Is anything I'm saying familiar? Because I'm aware, just to be clear, my understanding is that people who came to the U.S., let's say before 1920, can still show that they did become Czechoslovak citizens in certain cases. So my question is, how sure are you that the ancestor had to immigrate before 1920 or after? Because I believe there are cases where the ancestor left in 1912 or 14 and still can be eligible for CBD. Does that question make sense?
The question makes complete sense. And if I'm honest with you, I'm not aware of any cases like that, because there were two acts in former Austro-Hungarian Empire in 1879. And also there was another citizenship act in Czechoslovakia of 1949. And basically these dealt with abandonment, what they call abandonment. So if you left Austro-Hungarian Empire or Czechoslovakia for 10 or more years, it means that, they abandoned the territory and they were no longer considered the citizens of that territory. We are not citizenship experts. This is not something that we are dealing with on. And I'm not saying we are not dealing with, because we are dealing with cases like that. However, this is not that we go deep enough.
Got it. No, that's fine. I'm glad you mentioned that 10-year, that Hungarian law for 10 years. There is, I'm not going to argue it on this call, but I just wanted to let everybody know who's on the call that if you do have ancestors that came from 1910 and later, right, then that they may actually qualify, because there's certain cases going through now. So I would urge everyone to keep their eye on that. There's a Facebook form that may be helpful to this. So I don't want people on this call to think that it has to be 1920, because I'm aware of several cases now that do involve some applicants whose ancestors left at 1912. My other question is concerning the application. When one applies for CBD in the U.S., let's say, or at an embassy, you apply simultaneously for permanent residency or the residency, let's say the residency permit and CBD. Is that not correct?
What do you mean by CBD?
Citizenship by descent.
No. You can't do that. At the same time, basically, you first have to have residence in Slovakia granted, and then you can apply for citizenship.
I understand.
But like I've said, back to the question you've asked first, are you aware of any successful cases when somebody left territory in Slovakia in 1912 and they were granted residence and later citizenship? Because honestly, I'm not. And considering that Czechoslovakia was established in 1918, it's quite difficult. But good luck to those people, because I've dealt with, archives, authorities, etc., and they are quite strict when it comes to that.
The archive authorities, meaning what? I don't understand.
When with archives, when they don't issue birth certificates, but then they are unable to issue further documents like census records, etc., because these are like scattered all over former Czechoslovakia.
I take your point.
Even Hungary.
In the cases I have in mind, there is census records of family members later on in Czechoslovakia, but it still remains the case. So you're right that you would have to be able to prove that the family was Czechoslovak, but still the ancestor, the grandparent, let's say, can leave in 1912 and then prove that they would have become had they stayed for 10 years. So it's a little bit nuanced, but I just don't want people to lose hope on this call, whose ancestors didn't come until 1920 or beyond. That if you do come before, there are cases. So I just want to make sure we all can think positively about that. Thank you so much. This has been a great call. I've learned so much. Thank you. Thank you, Natalia.
Welcome. Thank you for your kind words. Cheers.
Wonderful.
Yeah, the other questions, please.
Yeah, hi, Natalia. I have a question, and thank you very much for this presentation. I have a question actually for the people who lost the citizenship between 2010 and 2022. I think it's quite a lot of people who either didn't even report it, or just didn't do anything with that. I remember because I did it myself, I reported it and I regained again my Slovak citizenship. There was a requirement to do it, I believe, within the, 3 months or 6 months, I don't remember. But what about those people who didn't do it for, 10 years now? Do you know if there is any way they can reapply now? Is there any fines they have to pay, or what's the process?
Yeah, that's the thing, these people who obtained foreign citizenship should have reported it. And like you said, plenty of them haven't. Anyway, if they report it now, I think it's still better than not reporting it at all. They can face a fine, but I think it's up to discretion of the relevant authority whether these people will be fined or not, and they can apply for regaining Slovak citizenship. And if they lost it between those 2010 and 2022 period, they don't even have to have residence in Slovakia. They can just reapply, like I said, diplomatic mission or the district office in the seat of the region. However, I have to make everyone aware, when it comes to citizenship application, the process can take up to 2 years. So it's not instant. So back to your question, I would recommend reporting it and then reapplying. I know it's a bit like a pain, but I think it's worth doing it.
Yeah, definitely. And I have to say, mine process was very quick. I have to say the consulate in New York was very fast. It was less than 5 months, I would say. So
fantastic. For all those people, it's probably unique, and maybe regaining Slovak citizenship is easier because you kind of already exists in the database, and they have information about you. But it can take up to 24 months.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any more questions? If there are no further questions, I will ask my colleague Martin to take over. However, like I've said on a few occasions, please note that you can always email us or call us, and we are more than happy to help. Yeah, Martin?
Yes, thank you very much, Natalia. Great, you did a great job. Welcome, everyone. My name is Martin. I'm a member of the Employment and Social Counseling team here at the Migration Information Center. So I know we touched a little bit on language courses, even over the course of the discussion presentation, and I also saw some questions about that in the chat. So I would just like to put out a little bit of a shameless plug out there. We're one of the largest Slovak language course providers in Slovakia. We just opened another cycle of registration for intensive language courses. I think we have about 3 places still available. And then towards the end of August, beginning of September, we'll also open another cycle of registration for standard courses, which will run until the end of the year. We do. Yes, so they are held online as well. Actually, all of the courses, Jennifer, will be done online. So if any of you are interested, or if you'd like to sort of front load the process for any of your family members and you think of bringing to Slovakia, you can definitely apply, and hopefully they'll enjoy the courses. We can share the link to where you'll find more information with you, either in the chat after the seminar, just so everybody is able to find it okay. All right, so now before I turn into my portion of the presentation, I would just like to also briefly thank Slovak Pro for helping us organize the webinar. Your help has been really invaluable in getting the information about the webinar out there. And I hope this sort of marks the start of a very valuable partnership going forward. So with all that said, I think I can turn into my portion of the presentation, which, based on the registration forms which you've filled out, I sort of narrowed down to 6 areas of interest. I'm not sure we'll be able to go through all of them today. I'm just being mindful of the time. So I'll try to stop after every section for questions. And with that, let's turn to the recognition of foreign university diplomas. So after you've completed the process of coming to Slovakia, a lot of you might be considering looking for a job in Slovakia, or some of your family members might want to do so. And there are different types of these recognition processes. The basic distinction I have up on the screen right now is between professional recognition, which that's for professions which require specific training and that need the recognition of their professional qualifications to do the job. There is an exhaustive list of all of these regulated professions on the website of the Ministry of Education, which you can find by accessing the QR code. I tried to put in as many of these throughout the presentation, just so you can quickly access the website links that I'm talking about. In general, the Ministry of Education does a pretty good job describing the process and walking you through it. So hopefully you'll be able to find all the information there. The other recognition type there is academic recognition, and that's if you are considering continuing your studies here in Slovakia or for any other purposes. So you only really need to recognize your education if you're trying to pursue one of the regulated occupations. If that's not the case, you're not legally mandated to have your education documents recognized, but if you choose to do so, you can do that through the process of academic recognition. Now, turning to the issue of professional recognition, there are a few mandatory documents that you need to attach to the application, which you can find on the website of the Ministry of Education, or you can also access it on slovensko.sk if you're trying to do it electronically. I would just caution you, in order to do it electronically, you do need a Slovak ID or a residence card to be able to do that. You also need to provide evidence of your formal qualifications. So in most cases, that would be a university diploma that needs to be a certified copy. So you can ask a notary to do that for you. And there, you also need to provide evidence of the contents of the qualification. So a lot of the times that will be the supplement that's given to the diploma that states all of the courses that you took and all of the exams. And you also need a notarized copy of that document as well. Then you just need to provide information or a copy of the evidence of previous education which you completed prior to the education which you're trying to have recognized, and you need to attach a proof of payment for the administrative fee. When it comes to translation, because a lot of you will have those diplomas in English probably, the translations are required of the education documents. However, if the documents are in English, also some other languages which you can see on the screen, the translation doesn't have to be official, so done by like a court translator or an official translator, but you can just supply your own translation of that document. Now that applies to any kind of qualification, whether that's for medical doctors, pharmacists, nurses, or any of the other regulated professions that are on the list. The application fee is 140 euros for a procedure that requires the recognition of a diploma and also the recognition of professional qualifications. So that primarily applies to medical professions, then also teaching positions, also some sports experts or trainers, coaches, where it's more of a two-step process. So for example, for healthcare workers, you first need your education recognized, and after you've received the decision of the recognition, you also need to pass what's called a supplementary exam to prove that you have the knowledge required to do the profession in Slovakia. Now that application or administrative fee goes down to 80 euros if you're able to do the process electronically. And then for other regulated professions where it's just a recognition of the diploma, the application fee is 70 euros and goes down to 35 if the application is submitted electronically. In terms of how long the process takes, for professional qualifications in teaching professions, sports professions, and healthcare professions, the duration of the process can be 3 months after the submission of the complete application, and then it's 2 months for all of the other regulated professions. I would also just briefly note here that you can, in theory, start the process before coming to Slovakia, but on the application form, you need to provide an address to which they will send you the decision of the recognition of the education. So you need to be mindful of where that's going to be. If you apply from the US, if by the time you get the recognition you're in Slovakia, they would still most likely send it to the address that you put on the application form. All right, so that's it for the professional recognition. Now let's quickly run through the two different types of academic recognitions, which the first one is a recognition of a level of foreign higher education qualifications, which doesn't require comparing the content of the study to the study field. That process is still done by what's called the Center for Recognition of Diplomas, which falls under the Ministry of Education. But in case you would also like to have your recognition done in the specific study field, that's then done either by the higher education institution, which provides that program in Slovakia, or the Ministry of Defense and Ministry of Interior of the Slovak Republic for some of the study programs as well. Again, you have the QR codes there to be able to access the websites where the recognition process is described in more detail. Now, for the process that's still overseen by the Ministry of Education, so the one where they don't compare the contents of the study program, you need to submit, along with the application, a copy of the identification document, and again, a certified copy of your diploma and a proof of payment of the administrative fee, which once again is going to be reduced by 50% if you're able to do this process electronically. Now with translations here, again, with English documents, you'll be able to provide your own translation. However, in case there's any misunderstandings or doubts about the translation, the Ministry of Education, the Center for Recognition of Diplomas, can then ask you to also provide a legal translation. The application fees here are significantly lower. For countries which have a bilateral agreement between the Slovak Republic and the country of origin, it's just €7, but this doesn't include the US. So there's a specific list of countries on the ministry's website. So in case you acquired your education in one of those countries, you'll be able to follow that process. Otherwise, it's €40 if there is no bilateral agreement. And the duration of this process is a little bit quicker, and it should be done within a month after you've submitted a complete application. If at any point the Ministry of Education realizes that there is an issue with the application or some of the documents have not been provided correctly, they will stop the clock on the duration of the process, and then it's only after a complete application has been submitted that the limit applies. Turning now to the recognition of foreign education in specific study fields. This again is done by the universities themselves, or in special cases by the Ministry of the Defense and Ministry of Interior. A part of from the identification document, you also have to supply a certified copy of the diploma, as well as the copy of the diploma supplement, if that was in fact issued by the higher education institution, as well as a transcript of all of the completed courses and exams which you've taken, and information about the previous achieved level of education. For this process, all of the documents related to education have to be translated into Slovak. The administrative fees are, again, probably for the majority view in the margin of €40, because there are no bilateral agreements between the US and Slovakia. For those of you who do have the diplomas in a country where there is a bilateral agreement, it's going to be €7. The duration of the process, again, is going to be about a month here. Any questions on this type of recognition before we move on? Not right now? Okay, great. So if any of you want to ask some follow-up questions afterwards, feel free to use the email, and we'd be happy to answer those questions via email. All right, so the other section that I briefly want to touch on in the 10 minutes that we have remaining is enrollment in higher education and the recognition that needs to precede that step. So if any of you are interested in finding out about how many universities and what kind of universities we have in Slovakia, you can do so via these QR codes here. The first one is to a portal about universities in Slovakia, which also has the information in English. The second one is to a list provided by the Ministry of Education, but unfortunately that's not in English, just in Slovak, but there shouldn't be any difference between the two. Some of you might have questions about how much it costs to go to university in Slovakia, and if you are interested in full-time study programs at public or state higher education institutions, those are free of charge, provided they are completed during the standard length of study. In case you're studying in English or foreign language, that price is determined by the higher education institution separately. And for an overview of what the tuition fees might be, you can, again, just access the portal of universities through the QR link. All right. Some of you also expressed some questions about scholarships, and that's, again, going to be kind of a unique process depending upon the field of study you're interested in, and also which university you like to study at. So for questions about scholarships, we always advise that you email or get in contact with the university directly. But if you shoot us an email, we'd also be more than happy to help you with those questions. So for the admission criteria, you will need to provide documentation or proof of prior education, which again will be done through recognition for most cases, unless you studied in Slovakia. Now for bachelor programs, that will be secondary education. For master's programs, that will be first or second level of higher education. And then the doctoral studies, that will be master's degrees in most cases. Depending on each university, they will set their own admission criteria. So some of them, you might just be able to send in an application with the recognition of the education. But some of them, you'll also have to take entrance exams because the capacity of the spots might be limited. Let's now turn to the process of recognition of completed studies at secondary schools abroad. You can again access that process through the QR code on the screen. But in this case, the recognition is not done by the Ministry of Education, but it's performed at the Regional Office of School Administration in the region of the permanent residence of the applicant or the region of the university locations. And it's paramount that you send the application directly to these offices. If you send them to the Ministry of Education, they will just stall the process for a little bit, and you'll have to send it to the regional office. In terms of what the application has to include, it's going to be a copy of your ID and a certified copy of the diploma, as well as the transcript of the courses which you've completed. Now, in case of vocational secondary education, a confirmation issued by the secondary school about the scope of practical education will also have to be provided, and also some information about or a proof of payment of the administrative fee. Once again, translations of the education documents are required into Slovak for this process as well, and the application fees are 40 euros again if there is no bilateral agreement. The process takes approximately 30 days, I mean, the regional office considers the application within 30 days, and then if the application is deemed complete, they have 2 months to decide whether they're going to recognize the educational document, whether they're going to refuse it, or in some cases, they can also prescribe special exams if they want to verify the qualifications. All right, in case you're applying to a master's degree and you already have a degree from a university, whether it be a bachelor's degree or a master's degree, you will need to have those recognized as well. And that's when we revisit the process of academic recognition, which I've already spoken about in the previous section. So you can just access those through the QR codes. Now, for the application deadlines for universities, that's going to start as early as November for universities that hold entrance exams. But most schools generally accept applications from February all the way up to May. And some faculties also accept applications during an additional period from June to September. And an overview of those applications deadlines can be accessed at the portal of universities through the QR link. All right, so if you have any more questions about a specific university, feel free to shoot us an email, or you can also consult the website of the university directly or send them an email. All right, any questions about universities? All right, if not, I think we're coming up towards the end of the webinar.
There's one in the chat. Sorry, there's one in the chat. You mentioned free learning in universities got limited to a certain, sorry, it has a standard length of study. Does that refer to the age of the student? Like, is it, how does it work in terms of one's entitlement to, again, a Slovak language, let's say? Do they have specific some age restrictions on who qualifies for free university?
So that age limit, I believe, is 26 years old in Slovakia.
So older people just can't attend, or they have to pay more?
They can attend, and they do, but they're not entitled to some of the advantages that younger students have. Like, for example, the free tuition.
Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions? All right, so I guess if there are no other questions, we can slowly bring the webinar to an end. I'm aware we've not been able to cover all of the topics, but I'm afraid we'll be locked out of the building if we keep going on for much longer. So thank you very much for your time. And if you have any more questions, feel free to send us an email. We'd be more than happy to answer them.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. I will send the link to the language courses to the chat just now. So the first one is going to be the intensive courses. And then we have another link for the standard courses. So the intensive courses start in August. The standard courses will start in September. The email address I'm just putting in the chat. It's mic@iom.int. All right, so thank you very much, and hopefully we'll see you in another webinar or during a email consultation or anything like that. Thank you. Bye-bye.